Ladies and gents, this is the moment you've waited for.
It's Aachen week.
Aachen does something to you that gets you very excited. And
Everyone goes for it.
Ingrid Klimke, first person to ever win 3 Aachen titles.
The whole week in Aachen is like a celebration.
So Aachen is, for us, German riders, top of the sport.
This is the greatest show.
Welcome to the Echo Ratings Eventing podcast, and listeners, have we got a treat in store for you, because this week is one of the biggest weeks in equestrian sport of the whole entire year, because it is CHIO Aachen. It is the World Festival of Equestrian Sport, and it is just the gift that keeps on giving. You have got all of the top class disciplines. Of course, we will be focusing our attentions on eventing, but listeners, you might want to listen to the jumping podcast later on in the week as well to get an insight into that. But I will start by introducing my 2 co-hosts for what is going to be a bumper show of Aachen action. Sam, nothing quite like the vibes of Aachen.
This is big. This is very, very big. The reigning world champion lines up against the lowest scoring horse in 5-star history, against not just the Olympic champion, but the Olympic silver medalist and the Olympic bronze medalist. Add to that the exciting flair of Falco, who won the 5-star at the end of 2021 for Tim Price. Throw in the rest of the top 3 from Kentucky, where Chipmunk set that record-winning score. This field is stuffed full of talent, and I know I'm kind of building that up in a dramatic way for anyone who knows me thinks I'm half joking, but I'm like that. That is incredible. There is only one battle left to be had this year, and I'm not even going to talk about it because I don't want to take away from Aachen, but they are here from the different corners, the different horses with the different attributes. I just cannot wait to see them all going for a full-on battle in Aachen. It will be sensational. This is the biggest short format competition in the world in our sport, and I love it.
And that, Rosie, is the clip that you want to be throwing out everywhere, because it absolutely sums it up. We have got so many of the big guns going head to head, and it is always one of those real bucket list events that the riders want to win as well. There is an unbelievable atmosphere. The facilities are just absolutely incredible, and it is a real feather in your cap to do well at Aachen. You know, every rider wants to go to the big badmintons, the Burleys, the 5-stars, the championships, of course. But Aachen holds its own really special place in the calendar, and it's seen some brilliant winners over the years as well. We'll talk about a few of them on this show. But you touched upon it there. You know, it is the strongest 4-star short field that we see. And it has an even bigger kind of feeling around that stat as well, Dee, because it's not just this year, it's every single year. Aachen just delivers.
Yeah, I suppose when you think about the great 4-star short competitions that we see every year, and, you know, that included the ERM classes and all the fun and excitement that went to traveling around Europe or traveling to different parts of Britain to see those. But even outside of Event Rider Masters and the kind of, I suppose, the commercialization of 4-star short, just thinking about that level of the sport in particular, the hills of Chatsworth and the time test that you get there, Blenheim as a venue, you know, in the middle of the summer and late in the summer when you've got just the crowds that descend on that. It's part of the history, the rise of places like Bergam, and then you go over to the US and you've got Carolina, you come here and you've got Mill Street. It's my favourite level of the sport, actually, because I know that 5-star gets its plaudits, and rightfully so, when you think of your badmintons, your Birdies and your Kentuckys. But there's something exciting for me about 4-star short and all of the different challenges that it brings. But as you say, Nicole, we can talk about them, we can have fun with them and all the different challenges. But when you see Aachen every year, this is the field that is the strongest. So whatever way you rate this, and we have multiple different ways of doing it, but in particular using the ELO and using the field strength metric that comes from that average ELO going into a competition. Yeah, the best events of the last, I think the top 10 rated competitions of the last 10 years, and the first 5 of them are all Aachen. And this year's Aachen is in that top 5. So it's number 5. Put the 4 ahead of it are, it's kind of funny when you see the list, you're like, can we publish this? Aachen 2018, Aachen 2019, Aachen 2020. Yeah, it's as strong a field as you get. It's the best of the best coming here. Invitational, so you kind of, you get the cream of the crop essentially, Nicole. And then, look, I'm sure Sam will talk about it, but the facilities and all the I suppose the stadium, the crowds, the shopping, the fanfare of having dressage and show jumping there alongside each other, it's as good as any championship, and it happens every year. So yeah, very, very special weekend in store.
And am I right in saying that the weatherman is turning into weathermen and making a comeback?
Yeah, it's very rare that you get both of us going anywhere. We're like the Royals, where we never go to the same event at the same time, but we are both in Aachen. So yeah, SAP and Henrika at SAP in particular, like I think we did that event Rider Masters where I used to stand in front of the screen and I'd tell the story, and she said, "Oh, you're kind of like a weatherman." And anyway, Henrika really liked it, so kind of it became a thing then. So I would stand in front of the screen. I did it for some of the championships. Sam doesn't really know as much about it because he was often competing, so he wouldn't have done that many. But anyway, Henrika said, "Will you do the weatherman for Aachen?" So I said, "Yeah, of course I will." But Sam will also be doing it for jumping as well. So it'll be interesting to. I'm fascinated to see how he does it, Nickers, because it's quite a lot of passion and excitement. But Sam would be much more like the less hype, more
tripe.
Information, less tripe. So yeah, it'll be a balance. It'll be interesting to see if you're an eventing podcast listener and you happen to see any of the weatherman coverage that's us in front of a screen. Don't be afraid to give us honest feedback in the comments.
I mean, honest feedback in the comments, nice feedback in the comments. If you've got some brutal feedback, feel free to slide into the DMs. Yeah. Sam, I've got a challenge for you. Okay, should you wish to accept it? This weekend, please, and we'll get on to the serious stuff in just a second. Can you get D back on that mechanical horse and get him to ride round, like pretend Aachen if it's possible? But if nothing else, just get him on the horse and take videos for us all, because it was a sight that needed to be seen by a lot more people.
Yeah, the simulator's back. Yeah, we'll both give it a go. I think I'll have to.
Perfect. Thanks very much.
Yeah.
Okay, moving swiftly on. So we have talked about just how good the Aachen field is usually, and this year is no exception. It's the second highest ranked field on the ELO ranking this year. Badminton actually was the highest ranked field, but it sits ahead of Kentucky. It sits ahead of Bramham, the likes of those. It is very, very, very impressive. And we are going to have to somehow pick apart who is going to top the podium. We've obviously got the SAP Cup as well, which is the nations going head to head. And again, just like with the individual riders looking to really make their mark on the podium, this is one that they all want to win. And this actually, there's a lot of riders here that we'll be seeing later on in the year, heading out to Italy, being part of team selections. And this is a real one that they want to win. And there's a real kind of fighting spirit among the teams. There always is, of course there is, but there's something different about Aachen. And particularly, it should be said as well, for the home nation, because the German riders have that home advantage, but they also have the home pressure. And there is nothing quite like a packed Aachen stadium that absolutely roars its home riders on. And we see time and time again, the pressure cooker building. And we actually, one of the things that I love about Aachen is the fact that it is reverse order cross country. So your leader after the dressage and the show jumping goes out last on the cross country. And that pressure cooker just builds and builds and builds. And time again, we've seen it with Laura Collett, London 52 back in, I think it was 2019. We saw it last year with Kirsty Chabert and Classic very late on in the course, having a late problem. And that is because, it just is this kind of pressure that builds and builds and builds. And sometimes that's when the problems come out. And I just love it, listeners. You just don't want to miss it. You want to be locked in and enjoy all of the coverage, which I think I'm right in saying is on Clip My Horse. That's where it usually is. So you'll be able to watch it on that. Okay, let's start by saying, what are the key indicators of Aachen? I think it was a few years ago, it was back in 2019, Dee, that one of the things that you went very, very hard on was that you had to jump clear in the show jumping in the stadium to win at Aachen. If you had a rail, then, that was game over. And only one person, and we always love to say it, when things don't quite happen as the way the storyline might suggest it might happen. But it's only happened once, going back to 2008, that anybody at Aachen has ever won with a rail down. So you've got to jump clear in the show jumping.
Well, it's just 4 penalties. Aachen will test everything, and it's partly why people want to be there. Is it's a championship, and as you say, Nicole, every phase is full of pressure. The best, it's the most valuable 4-star short in the world, but I wouldn't get lost on that. That's not the why behind Aachen. The why behind Aachen is that championship feel. They will show jump in the main arena where Explosion and Daniel Deusser and Marcus Enning and everyone will show jump. They'll do it in the evening, and it'll have a massive atmosphere about it. And it'll be a massive test, for eventers to jump in that kind of a stadium is unique. But the speed to that track is, yes, it is flat, but it's extremely technical. You could call it a 5-star short because Rudiger Schwarz puts all of the questions. He's got a lot of tricks up his sleeve, and he pulls them all out in a short space of time. So it's incredibly intense. So there is no hiding place. So I know we'll talk about, of course, there'll be trends, but when the quality that you've talked about on this show is there, so the best in the world are all here, you don't want to leak penalties anywhere. So 4 penalties are 4 penalties. There is a chance, look, with that first phase and with what Chipmunk is doing. Chipmunk is the only horse ever in this sport to have a power average at the top levels of the sport below 20. So a power average is the average of your 3 best results. And his 3 best results average below 20. And he's the only horse ever in the sport to do that. Add to that his 4th best result, that does not even count Kentucky. Kentucky is his 4th best finishing score. And that's now the 5-star record in the sport. So this is a record-breaking horse. He is with Michael Young. Michael, since the beginning of 2010, has 49 wins at 4-star and above, so at 4 and 5-star level. So we're talking top levels. If he wins this weekend, it will be 50, just since the beginning of 2010. So you're talking about the best horse in a way that's ever been in terms of scoring. We had a nice clip from Michael on the overview show a couple of shows back, comparing him to Sam and how Sam was the greatest for what he achieved in his quantity. But Chipmunk, in terms of his scoring, is in a different league. So maybe Chipmunk could be the horse that has a rail.
I mean, you're just breaking my heart right there. And do you know what? This is something that we have debated time and time again, is Chipmunk on his jumping record. But this weekend, Sam, could see something pretty monumental happen. Would you like to know what Fisher Chipmunk FRH stat is waiting in the sidelines if he wins this weekend?
Probably number of wins. He has a huge number of wins. So I would say it's going to be in that area. But hit me with it. I don't know it.
No, it is. So Labiastatique Sam has more international wins than any other horse on our records going back to 2008. He is at 20. Fisher Chipmunk FRH this weekend is bidding to equal that record and also hit 20.
I now don't want him to win. I'm just such a Sam fan.
I knew that was going to happen.
I mean, let's be honest, that 20th international victory for Chipmunk is going to come at some point. The question is it going to come at Aachen this weekend?
Yeah, it's going to come at Aachen, and then 21's going to come when he wins the Worlds. What a way to become the most successful horse of the decade.
He's never going to be the greatest event horse because Sam has done the Triple Crown.
There's still time, Sam. There is still.
He is not going to hold all 3 major championship wins, individual wins at the same time. Labiastatique Sam was he thrashed a world championship field in 2010. He won the Europeans in 2011. He was the Olympic champion in 2012. He comes back and becomes a double Olympic champion. Chipmunk is not doing that. Chipmunk hasn't even won an Olympics. And I know I'm the first to say that he should have, but he hasn't.
All I would say is there is a long way to go, but you're very brave to say that he's never going to do it, because he could well.
No, he's not.
He could well.
Yeah. I think it's very difficult to think about him as the greatest. But I don't think you could disagree with the fact that there would only be one winner between the two on most courses. Save for a very, very...
Sam looks horrified, listeners. Like, the mouth is open, the flies are going in.
Chipmunk could probably have 2 rails on Sam's best day and still be ahead of him.
The second most successful 5-star horse in the sport is Priceless, with 2 Burley wins, a Badminton win, and a WEG win. Sam is the most successful on 6. Chipmunk has 1. He's 1 5-star.
I know.
Sam has 6, folks. It's time to wake up and smell the coffee, Nicole Brown.
Can I? Well, I'm just, to be fair, you need to be saying that to D. I was just putting it out there that it is entirely possible that a few more of those can come. So I'm just going to say that they have a 32% win chance going into Aachen, which in terms of Aachen strength of field would be fairly enormous. The next best would be his teammate and his former jockey. And actually, Fisher Chipmunk has won in Aachen previously with Julia Krajewski on board back in 2018. They took the top spot then. And so Julia comes forward with the Mont Bonneville, the Olympic champion, 14% win chance. So you can just see that. And then it starts to get really spread out between the likes of Ross Cantor, Tom McEwen, Sarah Bullamore's in there as well, and a few of the others. I'm just going to put it out there.
Look, that's massive, Nicole, and I have to. I'm reining myself in here because there's a bit of tongue in cheek. There is emotion wrapped up actually in what I say about Sam and how he's the greatest. But the point is, and it's why I said about Michael's quote. The point is that Chipmunk, in all probability, would beat Sam if they lined up. Sam is the greatest through quantity and longevity. And being able to win it at so many different types of venues, under so many different types of conditions, under some terribly difficult courses and conditions, and to be so flawless and faultless. That's why he's the best. But this horse, folks, is a monster. And that 32 to give this horse a 1 in 3 chance of winning against this level of quality. Remember that opening of the runners up from the, all the individual medalists from the Olympics are here. Falco's here, they're all here, and he's got such a high win chance. This horse is an absolute monster, and you need to tune in to watch him.
The only thing that I'm going to say, and I am really interested by this because he isn't his team horse, so he isn't the horse that he is riding in the SAP Cup. That actually lies with Kulkandra Ocean Power, and so we haven't seen him since Kentucky. Don't get me wrong, I don't think he's taking him to Aachen for a schooling round, but it does beg the question, is he going in with all guns blazing here this weekend? That's something that I think we have to put out there because he very much has his eyes on the World Championships in Protoni, and therefore this, the horse isn't going to be the fittest, that he is going to be. He's not going to be as well tuned as he will be in September. He'll have had a bit of a holiday. Just worth bearing in mind. I've just found something else. So he is the best dressage horse in the field. Sam, you were questioning his show jumping. Okay, he's actually one of the best show jumpers in the field.
I wasn't questioning his show jumping. I said because of his ability, he could be a horse that could have a rail and still win. That's what I think. As in, he's that fast. But you guys, the weather is weatherman talk again. But genuinely, this will be not just the wettest Aachen that we've seen for a while, and there have been wet Aachens. And you're talking about a venue where the time is always influential, by the way. And interestingly, Andrew Nicholson would say that the horses are slower now. Aachen is one of these tracks that stays very similar year on year in terms of the track that it takes. So it's quite a fair track to compare year on year times. But we haven't seen these horses, even Toledo de Cursor. When was the last time you saw him run in the mud? A Mont de Bonneville, Even Vasily Delassos, who I can't wait to see him in the mud.
Oh my God. If he runs in the mud, this could be his weekend.
He could break event. He could break eventing manager, and there'd be so many people wanting him in the team. He could be the biggest price mover in eventing manager. You got to play this weekend, folks, because the great thing about a field that is stacked with this much quality is you get to have 4 people in your team that you really want to have on your team. We know something about all of them, so that could be another angle. My heart sank a little bit when you said about Chipmunk not being in the team, but
that doesn't really matter for the purposes of this.
No, correct.
I don't say that in a dismissive way, but the Nations Cup at Aachen, in terms of the eventing, for me, is secondary.
Do you know why it could be? It's because you have to run your team horse first. Maybe he wants Chipmunk going near the end last. You can see him. He can have them all in his sights, and he can just he's going to have a good feeling because it's Mickey. He's going to have a good feeling, but he'll know. He's like, I just want to know if I go, 10 seconds over, 11 seconds over. He'll know what he has to do, and he'll just come in.
But they run in reverse order anyway. But he'd get a late dress off.
All right.
Can I? I'm full of this ass tonight, listeners. Sorry. Sam, could you segue us into the next horse and rider combination as Mickey, please? Because we have listeners. Sam has been on the go today for probably about 13, 14 hours. And then Silly Sam makes an appearance. And
when we say, sorry, Nicole, but when we say segue into the next one, is the next one Vasily? Because no. Is it?
No, don't be silly. If you look for someone to challenge Chip, yeah, for sure you must stay with the home team because little Tommy McEwen, he can't catch us, never has. Big William, what? He needs to retire. Wow, does that stay in or does it come out? We'll never know. Lads, actually, you can leave it in because I want to say about a William Fox Pitt. He's here with Little Fire. He's not the next one we're going to talk about, but he was magnificent around badminton. Hats off to the big fella. You really are. You're the most successful long format rider in the sport, and boy, you gave us a masterclass. And again, in your free time, sometimes I'll do this. I'll go, just want to watch a little bit of clip of an eventing on a Sunday afternoon. Go and watch William again around badminton 2022. Absolute genius. The next you have to talk about, folks, is Julia Krajewski, the reigning Olympic champion. Amanda Menaville. Probably didn't say it properly, but Julia is back, boy, she'll have fire in her belly to win this one.
I was going to say, it feels like there's just quite a lot to get out onto the table, isn't there? This weekend. Yeah. There's just a real bit of personal competition and pride and fire to come forward. And actually, Amanda Menaville has had a really quiet spring. She has only been out internationally really to Wiesbaden, and she won her final prep run. And that was interesting, actually, because I would say that Wiesbaden would be a similar sort of style of cross-country, quite twisty, turny, fast. It's a Rüdiger Schwarz track to Aachen this weekend. And so the mare is primed. She was inside the time there. She won very, very well. And so I feel like actually she's had a really good prep run, had a couple of weeks off. She didn't take her to Le Moulin for the German National Championships, which I did think she might. Aachen is very much the fixture.
What dress size? What was it, a 25 area?
Yes, think so. I'll double check.
So we were definitely texting about it at the time, weren't we?
I'll double check.
It's always, when Amanda Menaville runs, it's always one of those times that no matter what you're doing, you get a message from Sam or Nicole or GP to tell you what the score was. I'm not going to move off Amanda Menaville. I just think you're both wrong with this. I think we have a bigger story from Australia than Julia.
Let's talk Julia and then let's talk Andrew Hoy.
I just need to put them all into the mix at the same time, because what more can you say about Julia? I think she'll be 4 marks off it in that area. I think she did
a 26 in Wiesbaden.
Yeah. It's always worth remembering when we're talking about Chipmunk how much of that dressage prowess was gained through Julia and through Chipmunk's time with Julia. Like, I think they delivered. I think Julia and Chipmunk here, they didn't quite break the record, but they came very, very close to it. They're definitely in. I think are they in the top 3 dressage scores at the venue. Bettina Hoy and Ringwood Cockatoo, I think, are the only sub 20. But I'm sure that Chipmunk and Julia were very, very close to it.
They're not in top 10 finishing scores. At the
No,
event.
dressage.
She did a 19.7.
Yeah, that'll do it.
One of those, the Brahman finish with Chipmunk. Part of his power average, I say, he's the only horse in the world to have 3 scores at 4 and 5 star level that average below 20. You know, one of those achieved with Julia makes him a very unique horse. You know, has there been a horse in history with such dual rider success? You know, I
there
think
would have been Mr. Medicott, wouldn't there? Who would have had a good deal of success, but nothing like.
Yeah. I mean, exactly. Mr. Medicott is. You're right. I think is probably the runner up here. But
I got my stat. 19.7 was the score. Knickers 19.7 with Julia. 19.6 is the record. Bettina Hoy and Ringwood Cockatoo from 2009. Second best. But sorry, why I'm saying that is I think we know through Samurai the Toes, through Chipmunk, we know Julia can deliver unbelievable dressage tests. Amanda Neville is not going to deliver a dressage test of that level. I think it would be fair to say.
No,
they're in the
I think you could be
plus.
You could be in danger of then arguing yourself out of the horse that you're going to talk about next, because the horse you're going to talk about next definitely isn't going to be delivering a test like that.
I suppose I'm fully reliant on
the rain.
Yeah, just that Chipmunk is when I'm talking about him with Julia, we say Chipmunk, but Fisher Chipmunk, I suppose, with Michael, I think will be a really interesting case going up against a wet track, because Michael is, I think that's the time when you really see riders tested for their ability to judge the time on the track and to stay in rhythm. Chipmunk will just about make the time. How many times did we see that Knickers in when he was kind of bringing through debuting horses, say, at the level, and we were never really sure would he be able to make the time, and you know, on days when no one else did, Michael with a horse that I suppose we wouldn't have been as familiar with would come through and still be able to do it. He is such a good rider that I think he will be able to get Fisher Chipmunk pretty close to the time. But if it turned into a really, really difficult time, as it has in some runnings of this, it usually is quite difficult, but in some years it's very, very, very hard. If it was one of those years, plus the rain, God, like, could we potentially dream about all things coming together for Vasily? Who, by the way, has never won a competition. Can we just say that? Like, Nicole, he's got an unbelievable record that I know you've been tracking for some time and you've been waiting for this day to come. But like, you could get your record up, but you could get the big one, which is like, we haven't seen Vasily win yet. I mean, that is the record that we would like to see broken.
Well, I would put some numbers around that. Like, so this horse is getting better. He was second. He's got remarkably similar form lines and profile to Amanda Neville. Like, it's a very interesting head-to-head battle. He was second in Marbach, which gave him a HPR of 99. Amand's win in Wiesbaden got a HPR of 99. They were both in Tokyo, obviously first and third. So 106 for Amand, 102 on a HPR for Tokyo for Vasily. They both got a HPR of 100 for Le Moulin. So Vasily, it was incredibly tight, but Vasily was third and Amanda was fifth. And then Marbach last year, where Vasily was fourth, he was on 99. Julia was on 102 for Samur. So like, those are their last 4 runs. It shows the consistency of the horses. It shows like Tokyo is really the only difference. And actually, you know, given that I think a lot of people would forget maybe that Vasily de Lassos got the better of Amanda Neville at Le Moulin. Now, that was a show jump. That was the difference. Like, if Amand delivers, then she started on a 23.9 that day, and I don't think Vasily can start that low. But you're right. This could be it. This could be the conditions. It cannot be quick ground. Like, given the weather that we've had, given the weather that's forecasted, it's so unlikely to be quick ground. So if it's an Aachen, and that means that it's very, very possible that no horse makes the time except maybe Vasily. This is a chance for him to be really fast. So he's got to be up there. And Prediction Center isn't factoring that in. Doesn't know about
it doesn't know about the weather. That's coming.
The Prediction Center doesn't do the weather. It's very clever. It definitely doesn't do the weather. He on the Prediction Center has a 1% win chance. So he would be just outside the top 10 in terms.
Is this an opportunity to say he would be one of the top value picks on Eventing Manager then?
Absolute bargain. Well, this is at the time of release of this show, listeners. The market is recording, so when it's released, the market would already be open. And cheeky little plug: check out the featured leagues because there's some very fun prizes on offer this weekend. Do you want to know something really fun? So you know how he is an FOD, finish on your dressage score machine. He has only added in his last 14 internationals. Okay, he's never been outside of the top 6. The worst placing was a 6th place in a 3-star at CHIO. Otherwise, never out of the top 5. And that includes the likes of Aachen previously, of Tryon for the World Championships in 2018, of Pretoni for a 4-star long, of the Olympics in Tokyo, German national championships, etc., etc. Like a lot of very, very, very high quality events. 14 internationals. He's added 1 rail and 8 seconds in total over the whole of those competitions. And that comes in, he was 3 seconds over in Aachen in both 2019 and 2018, and then 2 seconds over in Marbach last year as well. I mean, that's just absolutely extraordinary.
I want him to win, lads. I just want him to win, if I'm honest.
You might, but English listeners are, and like Nicole, you've let the side down. I think if you're an English person, if you're a sort of a proud British supporter of eventing, now is the time to sort of disown Nicole a little bit. All-Star B.
Hello, we've only done 3 horses, and I led on the Prediction Centre favourite. You guys have jumped in on the others.
We'll be here at 1:15 in the morning. All-Star B. This is going to suit him. I think in terms of like the show jumping before cross country, I think maybe that was a little bit just the older horses. I would be staying with them for longer in a 4-star short than I would, because I know he's the reigning world champ, and that's 4 years ago. And as much as people will talk about the Europeans as being a blip on his record, got to remember he was leading that, and a serious dressage test there. He didn't quite produce that same level in badminton, but like he's in the picture here. And for me, there was a reason he was so fast for the first 8 minutes at the Europeans, so fast. Now Roz, I think, was trying to prove a point. I think there was, so I mean, but I was astonished by the speed. And that could be put to good use here. He won't. I don't think he'll mind conditions, and I don't buy the intensity, twisty side of it either. Like, that horse was exceptional for 8 minutes around Avanche, and I'm not saying he's only an 8 minute, but I just think that she rode. It was more like a 4-star short that just went on too long in Avanche.
I also think we can't underestimate the fact that he was one of the few horses. Not many of them at those Europeans had been the travelling reserve. They had been primed to go to a championship for a whole month. And then, horses are clever, certainly at that level. They know what it's like to be at a big party, and they're kind of going, oh, right, today's the day. Oh, it's cross-country day. And they got up in the morning and he did his usual pre-cross-country routine, and then he went back in the stable and stayed there. That's pretty hard as a horse. And I know, having spoken to people on the team, that on Roz's team, that, he was different. He did find it very difficult, and actually they've really taken the pressure off. He went out in the field. She does her flat work out in the field with him. He doesn't go in the school and get drilled. He knows his job, and he has every chance of coming here and putting in a very, very good performance. And actually, Ros has got both Lordships Graffalo, who was second at Badminton, and then Pencross Crown Jewel, who was on the podium at Bramham, long-listed alongside All-Star B for the World Championships and Pretoni. And it's like the two young guns are kind of coming in behind. And actually, he's got every chance here. And I really hope they have a great performance, because they've had a couple of disappointing runs. I say disappointing. 12th at Badminton isn't a disappointment, but I think it would be. I think you'd probably be fair to say they would have hoped that it had been higher.
But I think that's an interesting point as well, because I think Lordships Graffalo might be the preferred horse for. I mean, this is complete speculation. This is not anything else, which means that of all the horses we've talked, I know Aachen is a championship in itself, and you want them ready. But you can't have, these horses have all had big spring targets. They've obviously all got a big autumn target. It's very difficult to peak a horse 3 times, but I guarantee you All-Star B is peaked for this. I think this will be a big one.
It's interesting, actually, and I think it's, Ros has options for Pretoni. For me, I'd actually really love to see All-Star B go back to Burghley. He started his sort of 5-star career there. He's had a couple of solid results there. But nothing sort of exceptional. They were very much in the earlier part of his top level career. And it feels like actually it's not, it'd be fairly local for Ros as well, fairly local for her owners. It just feels quite like it might be that way with the way that everything is planning out. And actually, there's something really lovely about that as well. There's another British horse that I want to talk about, because I'm desperate to talk about this horse and I cannot wait to see them in Aachen. And that would be Tom McEwen's Toledo de Cursa, who we're seeing for the first time internationally since he had that tumble at Badminton. I say tumble. I mean, it was a pretty hefty tumble, but he looked incredible going to, the first 7 minutes of Badminton. I'd have thought that's probably maybe a little bit further.
There's a few things going on. Everyone forgives Toledo and Tom for that mistake. Everyone forgives him. And as a rider, I would say that a lot of people will thank him, because if Tom hadn't made that mistake to the bounce, which some people got away with, there was chance involved. There was a bit of bad luck involved, if you want to call it that. Chance, you can manage, luck you can't. So call it chance. But he showed people to respect the bounce and not go up on a forward distance to it, quite so open and quite so free. But Toledo is an open and free horse, like he likes to get on with it. We always, when a horse builds up such a level of consistency as Toledo has, you start to feel they're invincible. They're not. They live on the edge of control, I think. The forwardness is there. And as much as we all forgive, without a shadow of a doubt, it's just a sport. Toledo, everyone would be looking for, every British person wants to see them in Pretoni. Every non-British person doesn't, which is a sign of respect. We all forgive him that. But what a place to have to come and get that monkey off your back. Come to Aachen to set the record straight. Pressure.
And Tom, to be fair, has had things not going his way. You know how sometimes everything goes your way. And actually, Ros would be in a bit of a purple patch at the minute. The horses have been going very, very well. She had 2 that went very, very well at Bramham. She obviously had the great results at Badminton. Tom hasn't had all the luck in his direction. The horses, Toledo obviously had the fall at Badminton. He had 2 falls at Le Moulin, just a couple of weeks ago. One of which was ridiculously unlucky when the horse had jumped brilliantly round at a good enough 5-star track, and it was right at the end of his round. And sometimes, things just aren't always going your way, and you kind of need the tide to turn. And Tom himself has said that. He's a very, very cool, relaxed customer, but he'll feel the pressure going into this weekend, I'm sure, to a degree of, in terms of selection for Pretoni, everybody at the start of this year would have said, Toledo de Cursa, Tom McEwen, individual silver medalists, 5-star winners, they'll be on the team. One of those slots is taken. As things stand at the moment, he needs to really go well this weekend, because there are other very, very good combinations marking their territory. And actually, he's still got to prove his form this year. I've no doubt that there's plenty of time to do that, but this is a big weekend for them.
Do you think he needs more than a clear round cross country? Like, would you? Not
really. I mean, you would look at Toledo de Cursa as the best show jumper in the field. If you're going into the big Aachen Stadium, you'd love to be sat on him. his
What I mean is, if he
dressage.
was outside the top 10, Knickers, do you think?
But he's not going there to compete. So I understand what you're saying, but it's an Aachen. He's not going there for 10 time penalties, I don't think.
No, like he's still got to go and be.
What I mean though is, if he had a rail, or if he
had a rail, I don't think you're not going to not select Toledo because he has a rail in Aachen.
Well, that's where I'm going. That's where I'm going with this. As in, do you think other horses can get past him? I'm thinking of a Lordship's Graffalo here. Can other horses get past him on form, or do we always take Toledo in this? In the current moment, do we always take Toledo as long as he can get that badminton penalties off his back? Then is he guaranteed on the plane again?
I think we're being, and I'm possibly counteracting myself. One performance that doesn't go to plan doesn't write off a very, very good horse and rider. We can say that about any nation, because any horse can have a fall, any horse can have a rail. It just, you come back round to proving yourself and to your teammates and to those that are also in contention. Because if you look around you and all of your teammates are putting in really, really good performances and picking up really, really good results, they're making their case to be selected. And, at that point, then movement comes in as to who might go ahead of somebody else. For me, I think there's space for both Toledo and Lordship's Graffalo on the team in Protoni for the breaks.
I suppose I've never thought about it as anything other than Toledo would go. And then I agree with you, once the 20 happens at badminton, which I think is a rider error as much as we talk about it becoming respect, or people getting respect from that and it being a nice learning curve. Like it was a mistake that Tom made on Toledo to go in that open. I think as long as he's clear here, he's still probably the top racer.
Yeah, I don't.
He is, but Tom's a competitor. Like, they'll want to go and be competitive. They're not going.
He's going to one of the top. But Amand could beat him. Vasily could beat him. Chip could beat him. He can be as competitive as he wants and still finish outside the top 5. Easy. Yeah, that's. Do you know what I mean?
No, as long as he's showing himself. His. He could.
If he goes and does a 45 in the dressage, then we'll probably all be.
No, but what I'm saying is he could deliver his best and still be outside the top 5.
Yeah, that's. Well, I not his best. I don't think his best. Because he's fast. He would be fast. I think he'd outspeed Amand. I think if Toledo produces his best, but I also think that it's in my opinion. This is why we have opinions, and this is why we have the show. But in my opinion, it detracts from the massive mark of respect. And I would say I don't think he is. But Tom, if you're listening, I wouldn't listen to this bit, because I want people to respect what he will achieve, and I think in the likely situation that he does go and pull it out, but the pressure that's on him, and it's not just because of badminton, it is partly because of what happened in Lamulin. So in every cross country round, even Mickey Young, on Chipmunk at Kentucky, just watch it. There are moments where things aren't perfect on a cross country course, and you have to put it together. Now, when you're in form or you're in flow and you're going, you don't even call those moments. You're so on it. You're so instinctive. You're so positive. Everything that is normal about Toledo and Tom makes any of those moments just, you cover it up with ease. Your timing is so fast. There's never a moment of doubt. When stuff has just not gone your way, like the Lamulin, the second fall at Lamulin is ridiculous. But he has the realities. He's had 3 5-star falls in 2 events, in the last 2 months. And now those moments, he's human, and no sports psychology, no whatever. It just means that in those moments of doubt, things happen slower. Things enter your mind that wouldn't normally enter your mind. That's what he's up against. And that's not easy. And I think normally what you would try and do is just, and I'm sure he has, because he's, there's the eventing circuit is so busy, but there hasn't been that much time between Lamulin. It's coming around quite quick for him. I hope there isn't a kind of a big sticky moment. Like London 52 had sticky moments, massive, like you nearly fell at the quarry, and sticky enough around the Vicarage line. This is the sport. It's full of those moments. it's tough. I think Tom is in a tougher spot than some people might give him credit for.
One of the things that I've said it before, and we talked about it a bit last year, going into Bicton and the final British trial, Toledo de Cursa would be a really traditional long format horse. He is not a horse that gets pressed the go button at 4-star short level very frequently. Bicton last year was one of the first times in a good while that he's actually really, really actually had to press the button, and the horse loves it, but is quite a handful. So Aachen is a different type of track. They proved they could do it at Bicton last year. I just cannot wait. He's one of my favourite horses to watch around a big sort of 5-star championship track. And I cannot wait to see how he takes on Aachen. I think I'm right in saying he's been to Aachen before. I'll double check for you listeners, but I'm sure he has been to Aachen before, but it would have been a few years ago. He has been to Aachen.
I was going to ask you, I was going to say, before you do that, before you check Tom McKeown at Aachen, before I can see you going deep into I'm going to let you know not to do that off the back of Sam's.
Okay, I mean, if Tom McKeown is still listening, then he knows full well his Aachen record, and he knows full well it hasn't quite got a plan. So anyway, we will move on to the next horse.
Well, we might as well say it now. You can't leave people hanging like that. But he's
so he's been twice. He's not jumped clear cross country just yet. No. This is your year, my man.
The flip side to all the doubt, before people think that Tom's in some world of pain, he isn't. The flip side is when you're sat on a horse that you know as well as Toledo, and there's that much class, and you're as good as Tom McKeown, and you're on a horse as good as, to be honest, he is just going, and I hope he's tuned back in at this point.
We've lost him, Sam. He's not coming back.
He's smiling to himself going into the start box, and even if he's listening to this, he's smiling to himself, because the horse is so, like, the feeling that you would get sat on that horse, you just want to devour 6-star questions when you're on him. So that's what he's got going for him, and that's what will help him overcome the form and overcome the Aachen stats. So you haven't got it that difficult, Tommy. You'll have our respect when you go inside. Nobody
else's heart is bleeding for him, because every other rider pretty much in the world that you ask what horse would they like in their yard, it is Toledo de Cursa. So nobody feels too sorry for him, but it's an interesting one to watch this weekend. Can I ask, I'm going to throw in the next horse to talk about, who actually features a little bit further on down the prediction centre, and that is Will Coleman and Off the Record, who were the defending champions. And they only have a 2% win chance. They won last year. They are actually, I think I'm right in saying, only 2 riders have actually retained their Aachen title, and that would be Ingrid Klimke and Chris Burton. Are the only 2 that have won back-to-back. Oh, no, beg your pardon, Frank Hossolt and Chris Burton.
Air Jordan.
Air Jordan won it in 07-08. Chris Burton won it in 12 and 13 with Under Discussion, Holstein Park Leilani, and nobody else has done it. So he is back this year. He is looking to try and retain his title. Off the Record, I'll be honest, for me, when you look at the other horses in this field, he's not the winner, but he's won here previously, obviously likes the venue. Who knows?
Well, good to see you getting off the fence every so often, Nickers. I didn't expect you to be as strong on that, if I'm honest. I thought you would try and dodge that in some way.
To be honest with you, Nicole Byrne, I'll go on the record and I'll say that Bill Coleman is going to win back-to-backs. It's on the record. Bill.
It's difficult. It's difficult to see him retaining it. I think, I don't want to be disrespectful of Off the Record.
Not at all.
It's to win Aachen is who cares really? In lots of ways, like whether you came from outside the top 10 after dressage, or it was a year.
The way you phrased that, you said, to win Aachen, who cares?
Yeah.
No, what I mean is, when you win Aachen, does anyone care about the detail of nerds on a midnight arguing about how you win Aachen? All that matters is that they showed up and they did it. They're not going to win again. Let's be honest. They're not going to win. They're not going to retain their title here. I think it would be incredible. It would. Well, of course they could. It would take an incredible performance to do it. Last year was I think what would be interesting. Last year was a particularly difficult show jumping year in the way that we're potentially flagging this year as being a cross-country time test if the weather comes as we expect it to come. Last year, 3 people in the whole field jumped clear. 3.
Wait a second, say that again?
Yeah, 3 in the show jumping.
Oh, okay, beg your pardon. Yes,
Sorry, yeah, I probably didn't. I was in my head, that was all.
You make a good point, actually, and the show jumping is always tough in Aachen. I just think let's chat about a couple of the others in here, because you've got the likes of William Fox Pitt Littlefire Sam, who you were really, really impressed with at badminton this year. And he loves a big occasion. He absolutely does. He's aiming for his 15th 5-star win at some point, we hope. But he's got more 5-star wins than any other rider. And, there isn't an occasion that he hasn't seen. Sarah Bullimore actually comes forward with Karue, who thoroughly enjoyed, possibly a little bit too much, his trip out to Kentucky this spring. And it didn't go to plan. And there'd be another combination that I think, they were on the podium in Avanche last year. And she would be really looking to prove something here.
Yeah, I think so. And I'll be looking forward to seeing it. That's kind of I think Williams' speed on Little Fire, will it be there? And I think for Caraway, I think they'll find themselves in a pretty high pressure position going out on cross country. I like this horse in the rectangle, and I like this horse in the main arena when it comes to the show jumping as well. So first 2 phases could be pretty strong. Like the 6-run average is 25 for this horse. For your last 6 dressage tests to be averaging 25 is strong. But I think Caraway brings a nice segue as well to a horse with a similar enough profile in many ways, but from a different country. But that's Falco and Tim Price. I think if we were doing betting doubles for both of those horses to jump fast, efficient clears on cross country, Falco and Caraway, I think the odds would have to be high enough. Because I think there is risk attached to that phase with both. Now that's possibly again a little bit like Chipmunk's show jumping record. I think maybe you have to say to Falco, he's becoming consistent now in the cross country for sure, and he is. He definitely is. The speed wasn't quite there in Bertoni that I thought we'd see. I think this is a question for him, and it's a bit of pressure as well, because I think Tim would like this horse to be the standout, and I think he could be. But Bertoni was a little underwhelming, and we've not seen him. We need to see something closer to Poe, I think.
Yeah, I agree. To be honest, I was expecting a little bit more, but then also you say again, we come back to they're aiming to peak for the big championships. Tim has come out and said this horse is very much his championship horse. And I tell you what, listeners, if you're watching Aachen show jumping, watch this horse show jump, because it is quite a sight. Absolutely incredible. I have got 2 horses actually that I want to throw in to the mix. One of which is Louise Romaika and Waikiki 207 for Sweden, who actually would be one of the more experienced horses in the field. This mare has been everywhere and, got the T-shirt. She's been to a world championships. She was part of the Swedish team that won team bronze at the Europeans in Lemulen back in 2019. And Louise herself is massively experienced, but she's got a really, really good record. She's very, very consistent. You have to go back to 2018 to find cross-country jumping penalties. And she can put in some very, very smart dressage tests as well into the mid-20s. So just look out for them. And then the other one, who I fully expect to be up there in contention after the first 2 phases. And then I'll be honest, I think they'll be too slow cross-country, especially if it's wet. But my goodness, has he earned his place out here. It is Buck Davidson and Carlevo, who were 5th in Kentucky this spring. But they've been on really, really good form, and they are very capable of sort of a mid-20s dressage and would be a good show jumper as well, generally speaking. So I'd expect them to be in the reckoning too.
Yeah, look, I like your Louise Romaika and Waikiki 207 shout for sure, and I'd go with the other Swedish as well, Sarah Algotsson Osset with Chukelo. This is an upcoming horse for Sweden and a very important one. I think the 2 best Swedish horses are here. So therefore, and Sweden are a championship player for sure. They can turn up, but these 2 will need to lead the way. So what they do here in Aachen is important.
I have found, right, D has gone Vasily de Lassos if the ground is wet, okay? I have found a horse that if it rains, listeners, you want to be all over, because they might not be, well, they won't be leading the dressage. They'd be pretty solid show jumpers, but their cross-country record is very, very good. And
Can
my
I guess?
goodness,
Can I
they
guess
can
the
go
nationality?
fast. Yeah, go for it.
Are they French?
Yes. Yeah.
Based in the UK?
Based in the UK. Yeah. Do you want to go and have the best, literally
Flamboyant
the best
dresser.
trot up,
Flamboyant.
best trot up outfits I've ever seen. Yeah.
Gaspar Maxud.
Yeah, absolutely. And Zaragoza, who is only a 9-year-old mare, but she is an absolute rocket, listeners.
She's only 9.
She's only 9. She was top 10 at Blenheim in the 8-9-year-olds last year. She was top 20 at Bicton in the really tough 4-star short last year. And then she's been 4th in both Burnham Market this spring and Saumur in the long format, you know, and she was up against some good horses in Saumur, but she is very fast. And one of the horses actually that beat her in Saumur, Stéphane Landois and Chemin de Monchaux, are here this weekend. They were actually just very, very close runners-up behind Astier, Nicolas Alert, Amalib Or. The French have got some very interesting combinations in the field this weekend. But yeah, Zaragoza, if it rains, he will be all over it. She is very cool. I need to get my alarm set for 6 p.m. on a Tuesday evening, listeners, is when Eventing Manager opens.
Buccolo winner J'adore Moi, Sophie Loeb talk about. I think I was a bit harsh on Falco, who was 4th in Bertoni, but it didn't go well for J'adore Moi in Le Moulin.
Yeah.
So redemption mission here, up against it. God, there's just so much quality in this field. But yeah, Sophie and J'adore Moi. God, another one. Like, that's why I'm sure if you've been listening to this show, some of you have at points when we've talked about win chances, you've gone, what? Mental. Yeah. How is somebody a 2% win chance or a 1% win chance? I think we mentioned for Vasilia. Like, how is that possible? And it is because there's just long format winner after long format winner after short format superstar in, say, Off the Record. Like, the quality is unreal.
It really is. Dee, who else stands out for you?
I was obviously disappointed with J'adore Moi. I think I had gone pretty heavy on them knickers at Le Moulin. You know, I would not write off their chances here of a very, very good round. Really like them. Yaz is here. Have you dealt with Yaz? No? Can I have Yaz, Ingham?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, you can. Who were very impressive at Bramham, to be fair.
I also would like Anna Seymour, but Avondale. They're further back down, but I think they'll do really well. Oh, the perennial underdog is here, guys. Leah Siegel, DSP Fighting Line. She will be in my team. She will be in my team. It is, Sam's right, it is kind of fun scrolling through and, like, you know everybody. Like, it's one of those competitions where you're like, oh, look, I'm at the end of the page and I know everybody who's competing. What fun. Like, you know, Donoghue's here. Look, it is brilliant. But yeah, I think DSP Fighting Line, Leah Siegel, often we put up as an underdog, but they are coming very, very strongly. I was so impressed with her at the Olympics and would expect another. Yeah, I think I do this regularly enough, Nicole, where I put them up. I'm going to go with probably the same people as I put up at Le Moulin, Leah Siegel and also Sophie Loeb and J'adore Moi. With one more, I really like Anna Seymour as well, but Avondale. 1%. I'm going to take on Andrew Hull. I'm going to take on the Prediction Centre, though. I just keep scrolling up and down the Prediction Centre and looking at all the names. I hear you on Gaspar, and I would really be interested in putting her in the team. But Vasily is the pick for me. 1% win chance. He's going to be better than that. I think it could be the Vasily day.
Okay, I mean, my goodness, there would be a lot of celebrations. I will just throw one other American horse into the field, and that would be Sydney Elliott, QC Diamond, who have had a really good amount of success over in America, but will also in the top 5 at Buccolo last year. They've been to Aachen previously, and they were clear cross country, good number of time penalties, and their dressage on that occasion was not what they would be used to. They couldn't easily break into the 20s, so they'll be hoping for better this time. But it always helps, doesn't it, when you've come over from the States, but the lie of the land, and the horse has seen that atmosphere already in their careers. Can we go for a podium? Because it feels like we've talked our way around some of the biggest names of the sport. And now we actually have to decide who comes out on top. So, Sam, I will start with you. Who wins?
Look, if I was being sensible, I would say Chipmunk, Toledo, De Cursor, and probably Vasily de Lassos. But I'm going to take a big punt on. I'm going to go against the top here. Vasily de Lassos, Viamont de Mats for Sandra Ofart. The lid was kept on him at Le Moulin in the 4-shot, and Zaragoza and Gaspar Maxut. I mean, I know. Geez, you could have them in your eventing manager team and still have a bit of change left over for your 4th person. But that's who I'd be going for. I like them in the conditions. They're all good horses.
Okay. D?
That was a funny podium.
Yeah,
it was, wasn't it? Silly Sam has come out.
The thing about picking podiums is that it's hard for me because everybody has their chance. So for me, it's much more.
It, Sam. It's hard.
Yeah, no. It's it sounds like it's too black and white, isn't it? To pick a podium, so you have to go with an angle. These are 3 horses that I feel will be slightly under the radar. And if you're playing eventing manager this weekend, they would be 3 horses that I would be strongly considering for your team. I think they're value. Let's put it that way.
Do you think they'll be on the podium? Like you didn't mention. I did a kind of a fake podium at the start. You said, "Here's my podium, but it's not my podium," and then you did another podium.
No, well, where would you stop with? Where would you start and stop with the amount of quality? So you have to go with the
start and stop.
He's like, I've taken the quality and I've lobbed it out the window. I've got rid of my world champion. I've got rid of my Olympic champion. I've got rid of most of my medalists. I've got rid of the 5-star record holder for lowest finishing score.
Yeah, because you can't selecting a podium is saying, oh well, I'm going to put these 3, and like we do it for you folks. Go into Google and just put Equidating's Prediction Center.
That's something else entirely. It's like a horse matchmaking.
Of our company, probably Equidating's Prediction Center. It's there. It's in order for you. They all have a chance. Falco has a chance. They all have a chance. But
He's so boring.
Come on, Sam. Enough.
Sam, like. He's
I don't have
this podcast for like 7 years, and like suddenly he's like angry at the podium thing.
He's like angry at the whole format.
I get 2 things that annoy me most. The things that annoy me most. Here's a bit of a confession. When you talk about being railed down to win, it's penalties are penalties, folks. It doesn't. It's like in some ways it's so.
Shut up.
Have it. That's just trend. And then the other one is
it's going to be so much fun on the Weatherman. Nicole, can you imagine how much fun it's going to be for me with the Weatherman being like, so, how about you give like a snappy soundbite? Just give me something there for the next 30 seconds. Just tell me something like nobody who has ever knocked a rail has gone on to win Aachen. He's like, well, that is, technically that what penalties are penalties. What do you need to focus on? And everyone's like, oh, bore off. What are you doing here? Okay, the winner is going to be.
When you do a Weatherman thing, do you get one of those pokey sticks?
No, we have camera crew.
Yeah, but do you get a pokey stick that like points to the board?
No, it's touch screen. We just touch the board.
Okay. Alrighty. I was going to say you'd be like whacking each other with your pokey stick.
Sorry. We just all. When was the last time you saw somebody doing the weather with a pokey stick?
I don't know. Oh my God. That was awful. Right. I'm actually blushing, listeners. Anyway, moving swiftly on from that, I am going to say, we'll come back to D for his podium in a second. I am going to say that Michael Young and Fisher Chipmunk are in second. The win is going to go to Sarah Bullimore Karue, who I think will love the ground. Then Fisher Chipmunk, Michael Young will be second. And then my third is going to be Vasily de Lassos and Andrew Hoy. I've got to have him on my podium. My dark horse is Zaragoza, who I've already said. Actually, I've got another one. Jesse Campbell, Gambizi, look out for them in the first phase. Could produce a good dressage score. D has disappeared completely now, listeners. I wonder if Sam might have chucked him out. We'll see if he comes back in just a second. I think the one thing that we can say, though, is going forward to Aachen this weekend is we don't always see all of the big guns out competing, week in, week out. We see a lot of very, very good horses, but the big classes, the big championships and the big feature classes like CHIO Aachen are a real, real treat. So enjoy watching some top class competition. Eventing Manager is back and the market will be open at the time of this podcast going out. As I said, don't forget to check out the featured leagues because there are some very, very fun prizes on offer. And Sam, there is something new and exciting launching for any Eventing Manager fans, for any podcast fans. There is something in the pipeline that will be coming this weekend that you can just kind of tease us with.
Jumping Manager. And Jumping Manager, folks, is good crack. If show jumping is a difficult sport to follow, there's an awful lot of quality. We recognize all the good names, but we do not know which horses are on at any moment in time.
Like a lottery.
So tune in to the Echo Ratings Jumping podcast and download the Jumping Manager app, and you can have yourselves a bit of fun. And folks, that game will be running nearly every weekend. Like the top 5-star shows and Grand Prix, like the calendar is stuffed. So in jumping, you do get to see the best of the best very, very regularly. It's a real treat for us in eventing, which is why we're all like crids on Christmas Eve. Quids on Christmas Eve.
Sam is absolutely exhausted and we have been working him very, very hard. So, Sam, D, we have lost completely. So what we will do is we will get his podium and we will insert it in at the end of the show, listeners, but his signal has disappeared. He is on a family holiday and has interrupted his family holiday to talk to us on this show. So we will get his podium and include it at the end of the show. So stay tuned to see who he is going to pick. But Sam, a pleasure as always. Enjoy Aachen, and we will have some behind the scenes podcasts for you this weekend coming from Aachen. So do stay tuned and enjoy it. It's going to be brilliant because CHIO Aachen, one of the biggest events in the calendar, is here. Let's enjoy it. D, let's pass you over to your podium.
No alarms, no surprises. Actually, I lied. One big surprise. Andrew Hoy is going to win his first ever international event on Vasily de Lassos. How mental is that? 20 FODs and 20, to be, and his first ever international win. He will just beat Chipmunk, who delivers a brilliant dressage test and leads the dressage, but couldn't hold on to take the win because of the wet rain. And Sophie Loeb and J'adore Moi are the best of the women. And they take third place on the podium. I was about to say best for the whole nation, then I realised Chipmunk had already come second.
Thank you for listening to the Echo Ratings Eventing podcast.
Have a wonderful day, everybody, and I look forward to having you back with us soon.
Don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Instagram for more.
Listeners, we'll speak to you again soon.